Good afternoon. I'm Bill Cronin. I'm the CEO of Dignitana Q1, and I'd like to thank Redeye for hosting us this afternoon and also all the attendees for joining this call today. Today, the Q1 earnings for Dignitana Q1 were released, and around that, I'd like to present our company, both today's earnings as well as what the company is doing in this particular business environment that we're in today. Dignitana Q1 is publicly traded on the First North Exchange, and we have been since November of 2011. We trade under the ticker symbol DIGN. Our headquarters are in Lund, Sweden. However, the majority of our operations are actually done out of Dallas, Texas. As of yesterday, we have a market cap of about 320 million. That's a little higher today. Probably somewhere up about 350 million SEK. And the product that we provide to the marketplace is the DigniCap Scalp Cooling system. And what this does is reduce hair loss typically associated with chemotherapy treatments for certain cancer patients. What does cancer look like? For many patients going through chemotherapy regimens that provide or cause hair loss as a side effect of the chemotherapeutic agents, the patient on the left is what most people think about when they see a patient that is being treated for a variety of solid tumor malignancies. Because the chemo agents are unable to differentiate between naturally rapidly dividing cells and cancerous cells, one of the side effects is a patient will lose their hair. The patient on the right is a patient that has used scalp cooling during their treatment, and in fact happens to be my wife. This photo was taken 6 weeks after her 6th and final round of TCHP for breast cancer, all the way back in 2011. And this is in fact why I am involved with this product and this therapy option, because I saw firsthand just how valuable it can be. For most patients, for most female patients, the loss of hair is considered the most troublesome side effect of chemotherapy. There are quite a few very unpleasant side effects from chemo, including nausea, fatigue, potential heart damage, and some other pretty significant side effects. However, in virtually every survey of female patients, hair loss is considered the most troublesome side effect. Scalp cooling enables a patient to, again, mitigate that hair loss that would typically be 100% chance with most regimens for our target market, which happens to be female breast, ovarian, and uterine malignancies. 96% of women surveyed were interested in scalp cooling when told of the benefits of this therapy option. We like to consider that it provides 3 primary benefits for a patient undergoing treatment, and that's their ability to maintain some level of privacy, identity, and control. Again, back to the patients that we showed earlier in the presentation, once a patient loses their hair, they are very quickly identified as a cancer victim, as a cancer patient. So by enabling a patient to keep their hair instead, they're able to disclose to whom and when they prefer their cancer diagnosis. So again, that helps them maintain their level of identity and some level of control during a period when they otherwise would not typically have much. How does scalp cooling work? Scientifically, it's actually fairly simple. By reducing localized scalp temperature, and that's it. This is a component of what's called targeted temperature management. You are reducing the scalp temperature to a very specific targeted range, and that induces 2 physiological conditions. The first is reduced metabolism. Normal cellular activity is slowed because of the lower temperature in that localized area. What it also does is reduce blood flow through a process called vasoconstriction. The blood vessels in the scalpel area are reduced and as such do not deliver the chemotherapeutic agents to the hair follicle. So through these 2 physiological conditions, fewer chemo agents are absorbed by the hair cells during the chemotherapeutic process, and you are able to dramatically reduce the amount of hair loss typically associated with many regimens. The DigniCap scalp cooling product was originally cleared by the FDA in late 2015. It was the first scalp cooling device-driven solution that was cleared by the FDA. There is a significant amount of clinical data available to prove both the safety and efficacy of scalp cooling as a way to mitigate chemotherapy-induced hair loss. The DigniCap Delta is our newest product, which was cleared in the summer of 2019 to replace the legacy C3 device, which was cleared in late 2015. There are three components to the system. The first is that the new device is a single patient system versus the dual device that the C3 was. Also, and most importantly for this unit, we arrived at a very new cap solution. We provide a flexible cooling wrap that fits very, very tightly to the patient's head. And what we're trying to do in the scalp cooling process is remove heat from the head. You actually cool a scalp area by removing heat. And to do that most efficiently, the cap or wrap has to fit very snugly to the patient's scalp. This wrap provides much better contact than our existing or previous device and other scalp cooling systems on the market. The final component is a thermal wrap, which is used to really snug that cap down and keep the cold from permeating out to the air around it. This new device has 80% less nursing time than the other older C3 device, and that's really an important component for us making this product more widely available. It's portable, it's ergonomic, and the intuitive design was really aided by the nursing staff that we have out in this field. There is a new revenue stream available to the company as well from the sale of disposables. In this post-COVID environment, it's very useful to reference that each patient receives their own cap. It is shipped to them at home, they bring it with them to each treatment, and then it is theirs. So rather than sharing caps from patient to patient, we're able to do this with much less infection control issues. There is a very large total addressable market, both here in the United States as well as globally. There are 3.3 million new cancer cases each year that fall within, again, our target market, female breast, ovarian, and uterine cancers in the United States. When you really drill down to our specific demographic, that opportunity represents about $600 million US, and then you look at it on a global basis, it's roughly 1.3 billion US dollars that represents the market that we are trying to address. The United States is the primary market for the DigniCap product. Right now, we have over 170 locations in 30 states that are offering DigniCap to their patients. For the US market, there's 2,500 cancer centers with roughly 5 or more infusion chairs, and those are the target sites for our product. 650,000 patients each year receive a chemotherapy regimen compatible with the DigniCap product. There are two types of cancer treatment centers in the United States. First are comprehensive cancer centers. Roughly 30% of the 2,500 or 750 sites here fall into that category. The other 70% are community sites. Those are for-profit cancer treatment facilities that typically have multiple locations. Those are our primary target market at this point. The product has been proven in the academic comprehensive medical center area, and now the majority of growth for the company is actually derived from the community spectrum. As you can see from this chart, these are some of the community multi-site contracts that we've already got on board with the company. In 385 locations that these multi-site operators represent, we're only in roughly 20%. So we've already got contracts with these groups and are now in the process of building out our footprint across these existing locations. One of the primary growth metrics that this company follows is assuring that each device is used as efficiently as possible, i.e. as many times as possible. We spend a lot of time both in the education process and the training process when a device is installed, and then monitoring also all the activity each site utilizes that device. And if we see a site lagging, we spend much more time going back with training and retraining of both the nursing staff and the oncologists. And how we track that is what we call our average daily treatment revenue. And the average daily treatment revenue is essentially how many paid treatments and the dollar amount of treatments that are being done with our device nationally each day. This is just a metric for the US market. And we see that number climbing very, very quickly over the last 5 quarters. The site utilization rate chart on the right side of the slide here shows that if a site uses this device in a medium capacity, i.e. roughly 6 to 7 times per month, we're going to have a device payback of only about 7 months here. So this is a very useful metric for us to follow, and one that we spend a lot of time with our sites ensuring, again, that each device is used optimally. Since the product was cleared in late 2015 and we put our first devices into the US market in early 2016, we've had a very consistent revenue growth. There has been a nice uptick again, late 2019 and early 2020, Q1 2020, as a result of now the increased usage of the Delta device, which we first put out into the US market in only August of last year. The company's had a 23% increase in revenue over Q1 2019, as reported this morning. Our total revenues for the quarter were just under 12.5 million SEK, and our net profit for the quarter, which results from higher distribution costs of the new product, it was negative 12.7 million SEK. One of the things I'm very excited to talk about today is our new slate of directors that we'll be proposing at the AGM on the 25th of June. Klaus Aroldsson is the proposed chairman for the company. Klaus has significant medical device experience. Yubo Mornovich is part of the ADMA organization and has spent a significant amount of time working with our company to understand our needs globally, and we really feel will bring significant value to the company. Christian Lindgren is also part of the ADMA organization and has helped us dramatically already from the financial side. And Rich DiOrio, who is the CEO of InfuSystems, the largest provider of infusion pumps here in the United States market, brings a level of oncology experience and knowledge that we just haven't had on this board previously, so we're very excited to welcome he as well. The other 3 members, Ingrid Adderud Hyman, Pontus Christensen, and myself, have already served on the board for the past year or longer, and we'll be able to bring the new board members up to speed very quickly. We have a very solid shareholder structure, with ADMA being the largest shareholder at roughly 26% of the holdings. Various investors through the Avanza network also hold approximately 8% stake, and then finally myself and my partnership have a 7.7% stake in the company, also following as longtime shareholder Ewan Stormby. What is the investment case for Dignitana? We have a very solid foundation to this company that we continue to build on quarter after quarter. The very strong US primary market for the company continues to grow. With the new Delta device, we have significant growth opportunities that just were unavailable to us with the legacy C3 device. The existing demand that I referenced earlier, with us being in only 20% of the 385 facilities our multi-site operators offer, is a really big upside for us that we continue to exploit and grow our footprint within that network of companies. And then the other sites that at present have neither ours nor our competitors' device, of which is over 80% of the available market in the US. We now have a diversified revenue stream where we're receiving revenue through 5 different channels: the treatment fees to the patients, sales of disposables, leases for our devices, both domestically and globally, sales of new devices, and then service agreements on those sales. We have a very strong organic growth mode to the company that we're exhibiting right now, and that basically revolves around additional increases in awareness and demand for the product. And then finally, we have an expanding applicable market where after the clearance of the device or the expansion of our indication in 2017 from breast to any solid tumor cancer, there is just beginning to have significant increases in awareness for those other malignancies for us. One of the things I'd like to take a moment to reference is during this COVID period where we have been forced to stay closer to home, we have a non-essential travel ban in place, and many of our, if not all of our sites have bans on non-essential personnel joining or visiting their facilities. So we can spend a lot of time actually working on our organization. We've been moving very quickly, especially since the clearance of the new device, to get the new Delta into the marketplace. And one of the things that we really needed to do was solidify our organization. So we've made some changes to our structure as well as added some new personnel to the company. And one of the things in the AB organization that we've added is now a Swedish-based CFO. We're very pleased about that. Jonas Solman, who is our interim CFO for the moment, has done a really outstanding job helping us get our finances in a little bit more efficient manner. Cameron O'Mara has joined earlier in 2019 to head up our global sales efforts. So our organization now has sales agents in Italy, the UK, that Cam manages, and then we also have a direct employee involved in the Italian market, Ariana Martin, who handles our fairly significant Italian and other European clients from Italy. Melissa Borstam has now been officially made the head of corporate communications for both AB and Inc., and also handles marketing for the organization in Sweden. Then in our really important US market, we've taken the opportunity to, again, restructure the company to be more adept, agile, and able to execute on a very aggressive plan here. And one of the most important things we've done is bring Brian Nicholson in as head of sales and marketing in the United States. Brian has very significant temperature management experience and has been able to restructure the sales organization, again, to very efficiently and ably adapt to this both COVID environment as well as our much higher growth potential with our new product. Melissa Borstam is again in charge of corporate communications for the company, with Jim McKinney staying as the chief operating officer, as he's been for a number of years for us, and does a very excellent job. The COVID-19 situation has brought meaningful impact, both major and minor, to the company, and ongoing changes to how we operate today and will operate in the future. Number one, the health and safety of our employees, our patients, and our partner sites is paramount and always will be. We basically maintain a business as usual with some unknowns at the moment. Our daily revenue metrics have remained very solid through this period, as is displayed in our Q1 results today with a 23% quarter-over-quarter growth. Patient usage levels continue to remain at normal levels. Chemotherapy treatments are considered essential and as such continue to go on a regularly scheduled basis. Facility demand is ongoing. We continue to ship devices to facilities at a much lower rate than previous, but some of our sites that are asking for more units are still being shipped. And at the moment, as referenced earlier, we have limited access to our facilities. So through the changes that we've made to our internal organization that I just outlined, we're able to both mitigate the financial strain as well as create a much more efficient organization. We did receive a loan from the United States Payroll Protection Program of $353,800. That helped us significantly and will be primarily and mostly forgivable for us. So it's very beneficial funding for the company. And again, as I referenced earlier, we continue to fine tune our internal processes to become more efficient. We've increased the use of electronic training systems, Zoom and other products that we can use now to keep in touch with both our internal personnel and our external sites. So we do anticipate a future change in revenue. The duration of the pandemic will determine, just quite frankly, how long or how much time it will take until we get back to a normal device installation schedule. We have a significant backlog of devices waiting to be installed that we will begin in earnest as soon as the duration of the slowdown is determined. The break-even continues to be a very important goal for the company. We were scheduled to hit that number later this year based on the number of devices we have in our delivery queue. But again, the duration of this COVID situation and how long it will impact that pending delivery schedule is yet to be known. The company had a tremendous number of accomplishments in 2019, most notable of which was the launch of the DigniCap Delta product. The product is now available across Europe, Australia, and the United States. The installation shipment of 91 of the devices prior year, 2019, here in America was a huge accomplishment for us. This was a new product. Getting it delivered, getting it trained and installed at each of those sites was really a tremendous opportunity for us and our partner sites to be able to offer this very important therapy option in a much easier manner to deliver. The observational results for our new product are right in line, if not exceeding what our anticipated results were, with patients saving and keeping more of their hair than with the previous device. There's a 25% increase in patient treatments over 2018, which translated into a 26% increase in our year-over-year revenue versus 18. We were audited by TÜV in October. That was a very successful audit, pointing out very few issues with our operations. And then we were also able to complete a directed share issue in August of 2019. For 2020, we hopefully will get back to a very aggressive growth schedule again as soon as the virus situation provides some clarity. We were installing roughly 30 devices per month until again most sites initiated a lockdown on new equipment coming through their doors. So we continue to try and build on our growing momentum in the demand for Scalp Cooling globally. We will continue to install Deltas across the U.S. As patient utilization rates continue to increase. And again, as I spoke about earlier, our primary focus is on multi-site opportunities. Those facilities, those treatment operators that are operating multiple treatment facilities across states in the U.S. Those are our primary target market that we focus on and continue to sign contracts with. One of the opportunities that we announced this morning was the signing of a deal with the American Oncology Network that represents multiple operators across several states, and we're very proud to add those to our growing list of customers. We continue to expand the sale of the DigniCap Delta globally. We're receiving a lot of inbound inquiry from multiple markets. And then as we're able to, via the lockdown, continue adding it to the knowledge base by initiating some additional clinical trials so that we can prove the device's efficacy with either new malignancies or opportunities or with regimens that have been difficult to treat with scalp cooling previously. And another one of our very important goals is we wish to represent 5% of the total addressable market here in the US within 5 years and 10% of that addressable market within 5. Thank you very much for joining us today. I hope this provided additional information about the company. We're very excited about where we're headed at this juncture. The new device, again, is something that is exceeding our very lofty expectations for what it would be able to provide. And the fact that our backlog of devices continues to grow from new and existing sites is really proof that this is the device that the marketplace wants. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.
Okay, thank you, Bill, for the presentation. It's an interesting report this morning. Just before we start going into the more specifics, just want to ask you how you're feeling. How are you spending your days? How does it feel like being home? I guess you're working from home.
Yeah, we were talking about this yesterday. It's probably, Matt's the longest I've not been on an airplane in 30 years.
Yeah.
So it's a very different situation. But I kind of like it. I got to admit it. I mean, we have a house out in East Texas. It's very rural out here. There've been 0 cases of the virus. Life kind of goes on as normal out here. So it's kind of been a nice break. I feel guilty about admitting that, but overall it's okay. How about yourself?
Oh, we feel pretty okay here too, even though it's different situation, but you deal with it, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it was a good, interesting report this morning. You continue to show good growth. So I guess it's the Delta launch that is behind this mostly, or would there any other things you want to highlight on this, the good growth?
I think the continued awareness of scalp cooling, increasing awareness of scalp cooling, obviously is part of that. However, even if demand or awareness were increasing, if we hadn't brought this new product to market, we wouldn't be benefiting from it. The old device was just too difficult to use. There was so much pushback from the nursing side about the C3 device. So, I have to be very careful about how I portray that, because we still have quite a few of the C3 devices out in the marketplace. So, I mean, without this Delta device, we would not be exhibiting the growth that we've shown.
Mm. So how do you feel like, I know you talked about the situation in March and April a little bit on the sales, but how's it feeling? I mean, you can't comment on the actual figures, but how's the sense? How is it going? Are they coming back or?
Yeah, a number of sites, and we had a number of sites in New York City that stopped accruing new patients. And at the outset of when people realized, really what a difficult situation this was, most of those have come back online. We still have a few sites. I think fewer. The total number of sites we had that stopped accruing new patients was 7.
Okay.
Roughly half of those have now come back online. The other half are waiting at this juncture. But yeah, I mean, we've been very pleasantly surprised that the revenue levels have maintained at where we hoped and expected them to.
Yeah. I was just interested. I know you talked about this a little bit about logistics, how for the disposables, are they still able to be shipped out and received,
Yeah.
or seems to be working fine?
The logistics issue really hasn't hit us at all. We ship equipment and cards out on a daily basis. Some of them take it a little longer than they did previously, but nobody has been left without what they needed in time. It's again been one of those pleasant surprises for us.
Mm-hmm. I'd also noticed that in the report today you announced new metric, the ADT. You would like to comment a little bit on that, because is there something that we need to follow from now on more closely?
Yeah, it's something we've been looking to try and convey for quite some time, and it's what we call average daily treatment revenue. For us, that is essentially, how much are our devices being used on a daily basis. So we could report that in actual number of usages, but I think it's a more meaningful metric if we convey that from a revenue perspective. Mm-hmm. On a daily basis, each day in the United States, how much are our devices being used and how much contribution are those devices providing to the company? So we are offering, we are following that again on a very close basis on both a per device and a per location basis.
Also in your presentation, you talked a bit about the importance of the community cancer centers, and you also today announced a contract, which is also impressive considering the circumstances. So you see this is like a way to reach your goal of or gain reimbursements in the future?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point to make, Matt, that the larger the organizations that we contract with, obviously the greater the impact they will have in the reimbursement process. They represent much larger patient bases and already have significant reimbursement lobbying infrastructure. So that is a very important part of our strategy, to align ourselves with groups like this so that we will able to make the reimbursement argument on a much more forceful and consistent basis.
Okay. I was a bit concerned when with this COVID issue, and also that you maybe have a gap in your when you negotiate with new clients. How's that feeling? Do you think there's a gap, or is it going to be like it's pretty much just continuing? I guess it takes about 6 to 12 months normally to get a new contract. Do you think it's gonna has it stopped at all, or is it just continuing continuously, or is it slower? How's it looking?
Well, it's definitely slower. I think early on, again, in the situation, in the COVID situation, for a healthcare provider, all had gone into, sort of DEFCON 5, if you will. What if
Hmm.
these numbers, these 1.5 to 2 million infected
Yeah.
cases in the United States, are true? That would just overwhelm the vast majority of facilities. So a lot of their productive capacity went towards the planning around a potential wave of folks. Now that obviously has not come to fruition, they can go back to more of their normal daily activities. But yes, most certainly it has impacted the negotiation process and extended that contract process for us, and it's starting to get back to normal. But yeah, there was an early impact to us for sure.
You also talked in your presentation about there's quite a lot of possibility as potential for growth. I mean, considering not talking so much about COVID anymore, but I mean, like the actual what's probably going to happen, hopefully in the autumn. How's you going to work towards getting those long-term goals in the US and the world? How's the roadmap, so to speak?
Sure, the roadmap, has a little bit of a dotted line on it now. Prior to the COVID situation, it was a very clear path forward for us. We still have a very significant backlog of devices waiting to be shipped and installed, and I think that's something that I spoke about earlier as well. With the devices that we've already managed to install and ship and are now producing revenue, and plus the backlog, we were essentially, at a very clear and defined date when this company would become profitable. Now that line isn't necessarily as clear, it will come. It's just, again, dependent upon how quickly we'll be able to get back to that normal schedule. Globally, we are still looking at a reasonable level of demand. Not every country has been impacted at the same rate. Italy is a very important market for us, and one that has had a meaningful impact. Australia, on the other hand, has had a much lower impact, and they are still moving forward, however, on a very guarded and very much slowed basis than previously. So, I mean, it's a great question, Matt, and one I wish I had a clearer answer for, but one that we're going to have to navigate as the situation allows.
Final question before we wrap up. Growth also costs money, of course. How's the financing look? So I know you got a loan earlier for $1.5 million, I guess. How does it look? Are you going to use your debt facilities and going forward, or are some other plans?
Sure. The debt facilities are an important tool for this company to utilize now that our revenues are beginning to improve and have improved to a level that we would really much prefer to use debt financing to buy a new device with equity, place it at a facility, and then have it accrue an ascending revenue stream is a very inefficient usage of equity. So we now have a very defined profile for machine usage. We know that after it's placed, what the ramp-up period looks like, and I also showed that chart earlier. With normal utilization rates, the machine will pay itself back in roughly a 7-month period. So that's something I've talked about publicly previously, is that we do and will use debt financing as we are able to solve long-term financing needs. Now, if there are other opportunities that arise and we are in need of greater working capital, we want to keep that option open and flexible to us as well. But primarily for the acquisition of new devices, we will use the debt financing options available to us as efficiently as possible, Matt.
Okay. Before wrapping up, any final remarks you want to give before we close this Q&A?
Sure. This is an unusual situation for all of us. I don't care if you're in healthcare or any other industry. I mean, this is unusual times, and we're all kind of doing the best we can do. And I wish everybody the best out there. That we've all had to now learn to work from home or some other avenue, and looking at people we wouldn't otherwise look at, or now also. Not seeing the people we otherwise would on a daily basis is an interesting phenomenon to be in. And, we're very fortunate, again, that our business hasn't been materially impacted to this point. I hope the same for everybody else out there as well.
Okay. Thank you very much, Bill.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate the time.